everyone. I'm Judge Princess Ongkeko, the Executive Judge of Santa Cruz, Laguna. For today's edition of Judge Princess TV, we have a very special guest, none other than the 26th Chief Justice of the Republic of the Philippines, one of the biggies ever in Judge Princess TV. Hi, Chief Justice.
How are you? I'm fine. What about you?
Fine, Chief. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, po?
I was born in Lawag, Ilocos Norte. I had no intention there to study in Manila because I wanted to finish my college degree in Lawag City. But my father, who was then a judge in Davao del Sur, wrote my mother and myself that I should go to Manila and then finish a course there. But it was already too late because it was already June and the opening of classes was June. And I was able to contact my cousin then who was teaching at the Colegio de Letran, and I was accepted there. And then after my graduation in Colegio de Letran, on November 2, to be exact, 1973, and I started as a financial analyst. And thereafter, after 2 years of working with the company, I went to school, study law. And the nearest school was UST, because I was then working at BBB Valenzuela, Bulacan, where you only take one ride to reach UST. Then I enrolled. Then after 1 year, I got interested in the law studies. Then I finished Marcos in 1979. I continued working with a private company. I left the company in 1987, January of 1987, when I told myself I think I have to practice fully my profession. So I applied for the position of a fiscal in Lawag. After 1 year in Lawag City, I was plucked out from Lawag City, and then I was assigned in Manila, detailed in Manila. I think it was in Manila where my performance became known, so that during my tenure as a fiscal in Manila, I became a permanent fiscal. And in 1994, I was appointed as RTC judge in Quezon City. So I stayed there for 7.5 years. I was appointed as Sandigan Bayan Justice in 2002. And then after 7.5 years, I was appointed as presiding justice. And then less than 1 year, I was appointed in 2009 as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. And then October of 2019, I became the 26th Chief Justice. My dream only was to become an RTC judge. Through luck, probably, and God's will, probably also, I was able to reach the highest position in the judiciary.
What made you decide to have a career in the judiciary, po?
Oh, okay. First of all, I have two uncles who are also lawyers on the mother's side, and then also my father. My late uncle was a city judge in Manila, but he died at a very young age, in 1983. Then my father was also a judge for, I think, 15 years. So I told myself, why should that also apply in the judiciary? It was actually Judge Callejo then who insisted, because I did not like to become a judge. I just wanted to stay as a prosecutor, but he insisted that you have to be a judge. So he recommended me to the JBC. And then later on, I think support was also extended by some of those, those bosses in the office of the DOJ, like Secretary Grilon and Secretary Bello.
I understand po your wife is also a justice of the Court of Appeals. What's it like being married to someone also in the judiciary?
Okay. She has been with the CA, by the way, since 2004. So she has been there for 17 years. She's now the second most senior. Upon retirement of Justice Fernando, he will be the most senior member of the CA. We do not talk about laws in the house or even in any other place together. We just talk about the children, what we are supposed to do with our children, what food we are going to eat, and so on. But we never debated about law and about rules.
What was your love story, po? How did you meet?
Oh, that's a very nice question. I like that question, and my wife would like that question also. It was providential, actually. That's why I have a book. You know, I give you a book. This one.
Ah,
It is
wow.
entitled "The Providential Life of Chief Justice Dado." It is here, but I will just. I was prosecuting in the office of Justice Calde, sometime 1989. You know. I was prosecuting cases. One day at 10 o'clock, si Judge Callejo, kahit nagutom ka na, walang recess yan. He asked me for a recess. Kaya I have a friend, I have a special visitor. Can I call for a recess? Then I said, no objection. I went out from the room, and then I found the courtroom. It's already 10 o'clock. Wala pang trial. Wala pang trial. No trial yet. So I saw Assistant Solicitor General Oswald Agpamili, whose wife is my relative. And then I asked him, who are your companions, Manong? Oh, I have my young lawyers from the OSG. I have an associate solicitor. He introduced to me a lady, beautiful lady, young. This is my lawyer, Fernanda Lampa. He said, March of 1990, we got married. I was already 38 when my wife was pregnant, no? But she had a blighted ovum. Our high hair, OB guy was telling me, oh, Dado, my auntie, Dado, you just, be careful, you're already getting older. So just pray. Only to find out that after 4 months, my wife got pregnant.
Ah.
Yeah, so it was properly compensated naman because yung third pregnancy niya came out pala twins. So
Mm.
na-compensate, we lost one baby yung sa first pregnancy, compensated by the third pregnancy, twins.
Wow, galing.
Then I have a young boy, the one is now in UST. He was born when my wife was already 42 years old.
Wow. Pero maganda nga daw po eh. In fact, my mother was also in her 40s. My father was in his 40s when they had me. Pagkatapos ako lang po. Ang sabi nila, mas nakakaangat daw ang maganda daw yung sa baby kasi mas mature ang parents. So it's
Hindi lang yun,
very
hindi lang yun.
helpful.
I think they're bright.
Mm.
They excel in their respective fields. Your chosen field nila, they really excel. That's what I heard also.
What kind of a student were you po when you were studying?
It was very hard for me because I was working for a Chinese family. When I enrolled in the College of Law in 1975, because of the martial law, I did not have any car. My father was staying in Davao and my mother was in Lawag. So I was brought up my uncle Judge who had no children. And I was working at that time. You could just imagine we were staying in Marikina and I would take a ride, but I had to walk around more than a kilometer before I get a ride in Marikina. For the past 2 years, no. And then later on, because my father was transferred in Manila in 1977, I was already given a company car, no. So I think the company had the biggest one of the companies that had the biggest areas of spend. I think. Then I would go to work Monday to Saturday, and then 9 o'clock in the evening, I would drive my company car, proceed to Cardona for more than an hour, and then take a boat for another hour, and then stay in the middle of Laguna de Bay in the rest house. And then I become the manager during Sundays. And then
Ipag
Monday
mo po
morning,
talaga.
grabe talaga. Monday morning, I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, take a bangka, go to Pritil in Cardona, then drive my car, go to our house in Fairview. It was very far. And then I take a bath, fix my clothes, then I go to work. That's how I spent my weekdays, and Sundays. Walang pahinga. Then, in spite of those hardships, I passed all my subjects. I took the bar exams. I did not have any 6 months bar review classes because at that time I was already manager. They did not allow me to have a long vacation. The only vacation that I had was during the 1 month period of review, half day pa. But I took I took the bar exams. Okay naman. I passed the bar exams. Hindi naman pasangawa. Yeah.
Ano po ang advice nyo sa mga students or people who would like to become lawyers or
Okay.
judges?
Okay. There's no substitute of for stock knowledge. Passing the bar starts from the first year, second year. The questions that will be asked are those that you studied from first year to fourth year. So stock knowledge. And how do you develop stock knowledge? If you have time to read your lessons and then read cases, they have to read. If you do not read cases, you do not prepare yourself, you go to school unprepared, then you cannot develop what they call stock knowledge. To me, it was only when I became a lawyer when I started to love those who were strict professors. You will love more those who were strict, because if they were not strict, then pabanjing-banjing ka lang.
Nagturo din po ba kayo, Chief?
Oh yeah.
O what kind of a teacher were you naman po?
Well, I'm compassionate but strict. Number one, I do not like is always absent, because I still believe that the students should learn a lot from the professors. Ayaw ko naman nag-absent. Number two, I give hard questions because I want to prepare them to encounter long questions, a long exam. So I train them to answer long set of facts rather, and then difficult issues to train them in the bar exams. Number three is that I always conduct recitation, lecture muna and then recitation. And of course, the most important thing is I want them to be prepared every day, every time that they come to class.
Sa mga anak niyo po, hands-on dad po ba kayo?
Alam mo, kung kami ng Mexico hati kami ng you would not believe it, hati kami ng obligation sa anak Disciplining the children, I owe it to my wife. I am proud to say, bakit yung mga anak ni Chief Justice, anak Chief Justice, anak ng Justice, you do not see them na nagyayabang. They do not demand for new cars. They just stay in their respective rooms in the house. Then they would, the neighbors would listen good music because all of them play the piano.
Wow.
And they have also their second, my eldest play the piano and the flute.
Dapat po pala pumunta kayo dito, mag-piano and flute tayo. Mag-jam session kayo with your family.
Yeah. So, sabi sa amin, dalawa ng wife ko, it's very easy for us, to bring up the children because they are obedient. And then they are not demanding. They do not demand for material things.
Ano naman po yung advice nyo sa mga abogado at mga judge na katulad ko na gustong makarating sa Supreme Court?
Okay. Alam mo, judge, ang secret ko lang, first, of course, you love your work. Nasa atin yan you love to work. Number two, let people know who you are. You do not need to advertise. Let people know who you are. And you know what? When you say that, then you follow what should be done. Or what do follow the rules and what should be done as a trial judge. Punctual. Do not use harsh words against lawyers. You should finish all your orders and so on, decisions on time. And then you make yourself appear to be. You can be approachable because it's not good not to be approachable because there are times that your co-judges would like to ask you questions and so on. But you have to make a distance between the judge, between you and the lawyers, and then the litigants. And people will talk about you. When I was a judge in Quezon City, I think I was one of the youngest at that time. Like you were also young at that time. So sabi ng mga abogado, anong gagawin yan? Bata yan, fiscal lang yan, and so on, di ba? But I told myself, wala kang pakalam sa akin. Basta I will do my work. And after several years, mga 2 or 3 years, they were already telling everybody, this Judge Peralta, he's very good. Masipag, he knows what he's doing. At saka dapat talaga, like you, Judge, dapat matino ka That's number one. Pag matino ka, people will recognize you. You do not need to advertise yourself. People will talk about your goodness, about your being a kind and good judge. Hindi na kinakailangan you advertise. I think
ano naman po ang pinagkakaabalahan nyo ngayon na retired na kayo? Sayang, nag-retire nga kayo ng maaga, miss namin kayo. Ano po ang pinagkakaabalahan nyo ngayon?
I think I would describe myself kasi amiable ako approachable ako
Oo nga po, kaya love namin kayo.
Sabi ko, sometimes I challenge my children. We go to the mall, I challenge you There will be somebody who will recognize me and greet me. And all the time, they will greet me. And then, hindi ko nga maalala, where did we meet? Yes, ako sa ganito. I think that's one factor. I'm friendly and then approachable. I'm accommodating in things like those. So tingin ko, that's one of my assets. I am kind and generous. Yeah.
And good looking. You forgot the good looking.
Hindi, alam mo kasi yan. I've been tackling the budget of the Supreme Court since 2012. So alam ko yung budgeting yan. Because you asked that question, aside from those what I have said a while ago, the other question, the related question is what I am doing now. I am very fortunate. I'm very fortunate because I retired early. When I retired early in 2021, sometime of June 2021, there was an offer from me from one of the biggest port operator in the Philippines, recognized globally. I think you know the company, no? It's ICTSI. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. There was an independent director who was already getting out from the company because the 10-year, I think has been an independent director for 10 years. Hindi na pwede yun. And I was offered that position. So I accepted it. And then, also Justice Pepe Perez, hindi ba? Justice Pepe Perez, when he retired, he was an independent director of Bloomberry, yung Soler. Unfortunately, he died in August. And then because of the vacancy, I took his position as independent director. And then somebody in the San Miguel Corporation, as a member of the board, died. I will not mention his name. So there was also a vacancy. Tama-tama, stockholders meeting sila. Then I was recommended. So since the middle of 2021, I also sit as an independent director of San Miguel Corporation, the main company, not the subsidiary. And then I think it was November, Juvelina, your former governor, called me up. Sabi niya, CJ Dado, sabi niya, may kababayan resigned as independent director of Manila Hotel. Sino ba yun? Sabi ko, si Justice Art Brun. I recommended you to replace him. Hindi ko naman matanggihan. So I also sit as independent director. And then there's another bank. It's not a big bank, but it's becoming a big bank, Philippine Business Bank. So I sit in 5 companies as independent director. And then we already published, no? I already published 3 books. Yung isa co-author ako doon sa evidence, si Justice Ed Peralta. And then I released the book 1 in criminal law, book 1, last June. And then this month, I think they already released my book on criminal law too. So I'm very busy. By next semester, I will start with my teaching in some universities. So, if I stayed another year in the Supreme Court, baka yung opportunities ko noong 2021, baka wala na dyan. So, yun. So, at saka isa pa, I really like the work as a Chief Justice. Kaya lang, minsan kasi, you have also to think of the future of your wife. My wife can never become Justice of the Supreme Court if I'm still there. And she's been there for the past 17 years. I think it's now her time also to go up now that I'm not there anymore. So I'm preparing herself to go there. Probably in due time, she will already go to the court, to the Supreme Court.
You're such a role model to us po. Even after your retirement, you're still writing, you're still with several corporations. At saka, ang laking inspiration po yung working student po pala kayo, ano? Working student.
Yeah.
Kasi I know lots of people, they say na, nako, hindi ko pag-aaralin at pagwo-work yung anak ko. Pero as I see it, I know many people like, look, Chief Justice, he was working at the same time that he was a student. Mas okay po ba tingin nyo yung lumabas nung nag-work kayo tapos nag-study kayo sabay?
There is a big difference, Of course, advantage yung non-working, But ang advantage ng working to me, because of the limited time, you do not waste your time in studying. Kasi kung non-working ka, bawas na yan. Meron pa tayong araw na dumag-aral. Ang working student, di pwede. You know, when I was working, because I was working for Chinese, and alam mo naman, pambus mo Chinese, you really have to earn your pay, you know. Then every now and then, my boss would ask some of my roommates, saan Dato? Datong tawag, saan Dato? Sir, nasa CR. Always in the CR. Sabi niya, masakit ba tiyan? Sir, ganun. You know, I have to go to the CR mga 6 times a day. Not because of the call of nature, but to bring my book and then study there. 10 minutes, 20 minutes was already good for me to study. So I have a book in the CR. Punta ko doon sa CR ako. I will go to the CR mga 6 to 7 times a day just to prepare my my lessons, no?
Kaya kayong mga working student, kita nyo, naging Chief Justice pa yung working student.
Yeah.
Kaya mahal na mahal ko si Chief. Good friend pala siya ng tiyo ko, si Professor Hino Francisco. Kasi alam niyo po, Chief, nung namatay yung tatay ko, in-endorse po ako ng nanay ko kay Tito Hino Francisco, yung dun sa law office niya sa Quezon Avenue. Kaya ako po yung parang tinuruan niya talaga. And he turns out to be a good friend of Chief Justice pala.
He was, alam mo si Dr. Hino Francisco, older sa akin yan, no? But he was one of the founders of our frat, the oldest fraternity in the college law. That's exclusive to us. And you know who were the founders? Ang founders dyan, sila Chief Justice Narbasa.
Small world talaga.
Dr. Hino Francisco, mga magkaka-classmate yan eh. Dean Amado Di Mayuga, yung sa JBC noon, no? Si Onofre Villalos, Justice Onofre, marami sila. But then afterwards, I joined the faculty. I already remember, I joined the faculty. Naging co-faculty member ko na si Dr. Hino.
Naalala nyo, Chief, yung Australia natin? Kasi alam nyo kung paano nagkaroon ng video conferencing. Kami ni Chief, kasama si Justice Maidas, hindi pa Chief Justice, si Chief Associate Justice pa lang po kayo noon, ano?
Yeah.
Saka si Justice Maidas was just court administrator. Ako kasi ang naging terrorist court. Ngayon, tong mga Australiano, pumunta sa akin, gustong makita yung mga terrorist cases na hinihiringan ko. Sabi ko, I said, sige, but you have to bring me to Australia. And in fact, they brought me to Australia together with Chief Justice. So ang dami namin, we were like a delegation of judges and lawyers. And when we went to Australia, dinala kami sa mga maximum security prison. Nakita namin yung mga video conferencing doon na hindi na lumalabas yung preso doon sa maximum security. Doon na. Tapos pag uwi sa Pilipinas, sabi ni Chief, gawan mo to ng memo, magkakaroon tayo ng video conferencing dito. Di po ba, Chief, ano?
Yeah, alam mo, it's good that you bring that out, that trip really was memorable, not only to me, but to everybody was there. Do you know that was the reason, that the main reason why went into video conferencing in pandemic? When we arrived in the Philippines, I was not yet the associate as Chief Justice, CES Lucas Bersaminian, okay? So I proposed to the NBank that we have a video conferencing in Davao, di ba? Which we actually implemented, okay? Because of what we in fact we consulted you. Those who were there, lahat na consult yan. We were able to implement yung video conferencing dyan sa Davao, okay? But piloted only in Davao, hindi pa national. As what we saw in Australia, practically almost the same. Came the pandemic, I'm not the Chief Justice. Nagka-problema ngayon. The first problem that I have to solve is that, sabi ni Maidas sa akin, what shall we do with the courts? Sabi niya, bakit? And we cannot anymore operate. Why? All offices close but we cannot do that. I told him at 2 o'clock in the morning, we would be discussing in the morning. I know that the judges were asking him questions, what should be done, because we cannot afford to close the courts, di ba? Meron nagbebe, lahat yan. You know what I did, because when you come up with the rules sa Supreme Court, alam mo yan, NBank yan, maraming dadaanan na proseso. It goes to a committee, there will be discussion, and we'll go to the Mother Rule Committee, discussion, and then we'll go to the NBank. So sabi ko, if that will be done, it will take us 6 months to 7 months. In the meantime, those who would like to put up bail, those who would like to render their decisions, yung mga acquit yan, they will stay there, makukubit sila. Tapos binubumbang kami ng questions. You know what I did? Yung video conferencing dyan sa Davao, Instead of piloting only in Davao, nationwide na namin. And then I had to look for a provision in the rules of court because it's not provided pa sa rules ang video conferencing. Alam mo yung apply ko doon? Yung Rule 23, yung oral deposition, in what cases where a testimony of the witness may be taken even outside the jurisdiction of the court where the case is filed. Most of discovery, di ba? Outside. We will apply the nationwide, and at the same time, we will use Rule 23 as a basis of the taking of the testimony even outside the territorial jurisdiction, and that's what we did. Kaya very memorable yung travel natin. Buti naalala mo yan. That was really that was to me, I think in all my travels abroad, ito pinaka-significant na travel ko in Australia because we were able to use it not only for distant testimony in criminal cases, but also civil cases, which already become a permanent rule in our rules court, yung video conferencing.
Nako, Chief, ang dami naming natutunan sa inyo. I'm so glad that you agreed to guest on our show. For your closing remarks po, meron kayong mga closing remarks?
Just to remind our friends, although I'm already retired, I am still available for consultations. In fact, I was just talking to the PhilJA Chancellor, si Rory Carandang. I'm now available for a lecture because we are now about to finish the bench book for judges, where I was the one tasked to write the bench book on criminal procedure. And I said that I would like to go to other places to lecture on this. I want to help the judges. Ang advice ko sa mga judges, you love your work. There is no substitute for love of work. You should be patient. Dapat wag mainit ang ulo. Avoid the people who make use of your name, Hindi ba sana kung magandang paggamit yung pangalan, but sometimes ginagamit yung pangalan. And then of course, follow what are supposed to be followed in accordance with the code of ethics. Medyo ingat lang tayo kasi alam mo naman ang perception. Perception is the worst enemy because you cannot defend perception except, sabi ko, the only defense that you can put up in a bad perception is good work. Diba?
Nako, thank you so much po, Chief. You're one of my favorite people talaga in the judiciary. Thank you so much for guesting Judge Princess TV. It was such a pleasure having you. All right, as usual, I say, tandaan, sundin ang batas. Magpakabait or else.